T1 over T2 equals the weight of the body over weight minus FB, the point force. But we all know that the weight of the body equals the mass times the gravity. But mass equals rho V, so weight equals rho Vg over weight rho Vg minus Fb, the point force in this case, equal rho Vg, but rho here is the rho of the liquid. From this equation, it is clear that nu1 over nu2 equals root Ft1 over Ft2. It equals root rho solid over rho solid minus rho liquid. Therefore, 25 over 16 equal rho solid over rho solid minus rho liquid. Therefore, 25 over 16 equals 2500 over rho solid minus rho liquid. Therefore, rho liquid equals 900 kilogram per meter cube. Now we come to the last second in our program today. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again, I wish you all the best of luck. Goodbye. Viscosity and its application in our daily life. In addition, we will learn how to calculate the coefficient of viscosity and solve some problem. I hope, dear friends, that you enjoy the lesson and master this part of the curriculum with us. Let's get started. Viscosity. Experiment to show viscosity. Suspend two similar funnels vertically and put a beaker under each, as you see in screen. Pour equal volumes of water and honey. The velocity of the flow of water is good, higher than that of honey. From this experiment, we can say that honey is more viscous than water. Or, of course, water is less viscous than honey. Another one. If we have two similar beakers, one contains water and the other contains the same volume of honey, stir each of them by a glass rod or by a spoon. Which of the two liquids is easier to move? Good. Honey oppose the motion of the spoon greater than water. In addition, the rotation of the honey stops quickly rather than water. The last one. Take two similar jars containing the same volume of water and glycerin. Drop in each a similar metallic ball. We will find that the ball falling in water takes a small time than in glycerin to reach the bottom. That's to say, glycerin resists the motion of the ball more than water does. We thus conclude some liquids, as water and alcohol as an example, have a greater ability to flow, and their resistance for motion of bodies inside them is small. Other liquids, as honey and glycerin, have low ability to flow, and their resistance for motion of bodies inside them is high. So, the question here, what is meant by viscosity? Viscosity, it is the resistance of the fluid to flow as the result of the frictional forces between its layer during sliding. Or it has another definition. It is the property responsible for resisting the relative motion of liquid layers due to the friction forces. Explanation of viscosity. If we have a thin layer of fluid is placed between two flat plates as you see in a screen, the upper plate is moving with a uniform velocity v, while the lower one is kept at rest. The liquid layer adjacent to the upper plate moves with the same velocity v due to the adhesive forces. Good. But the liquid layer adjacent to the lower plate has a velocity equal 0. Do you know why? As this plate is stationary, this to say at rest. The liquid layers in between move with different or gradient velocities. Thus, viscosity is the property responsible for resisting the relative motion of liquid layers. The factors that affect the frictional forces due to viscosity. It is found that F is affected by number 1, the area of the moving layer, where the force is directly proportional with the area. Good. What about velocity? Velocity of the moving layer force is directly proportional with the velocity by which the layer moves. The third one, the distance between the two layers, where F is inversely proportional with the distance, from which we can deduce F is proportional to AV over D. Therefore, F equal constant. This constant is called eta, AV over D. Here we have to differentiate between eta in Pascal principle and eta here. Eta here is denoted by eta viscosity. From this equation, it is clear that eta equals Fd over A times V. So the key question here, what is meant by eta or coefficient of viscosity? It is the tangential force acting per unit area to produce a unit change in velocity between two liquid layers, the distance between them equal unity. What about its unit? Good. Since eta equals Fd over AV, we all know that the force is measured by Newton. Good. What about D? D in meter and the area meter square, the velocity meter per second. We can cancel m, so we got eta viscosity equals Newton per meter square dot second. We have studied before that Newton per meter square is called Pascal. So the unit of eta is Pascal dot second. Nice. It has another unit. Since eta equal Fd over AV, since force equals mass times the gravity, the mass is measured in kilogram, the gravity meter per second, the area meter square, and the velocity meter per second. Therefore, we can get eta equals kilogram meter negative 1 second negative 1. Here we have very important questions. What is meant by the coefficient of liquid viscosity equals 1 times 10 to the power negative 3 kilogram meter negative 1 second negative 1. The solution. It is the tangential force acting per unit area to produce a unit change in velocity between two liquid layers. The distance between them 1 meter. It equals 1 times 10 to the power negative 3 Newton. If a force needed to move a plate with a velocity 1 times 10 to the power negative 3 meter per second on the horizontal plate of an area 0.1 meter square equals 15 Newton. Between the two plates there is a layer of oil of thickness 10 to the power negative 3 centimeter. To change it to meter, we have to multiply it 10 to the power negative 2. It equals 10 to the power negative 5 meter. So we substitute in the relation. Since eta equals Fd over Av, therefore F15 times 10 to the power negative 2 over 0.1 times 10 to the power negative 3, it equals 1.5 Pascal dot second. Another one. Two square horizontal plates of a side length 10 centimeter. If there is a liquid confined between them of a thickness 2 millimeter and its coefficient of viscosity equals 4 kilogram meter negative 1 second negative 1. If a force of 10 Newton is affected on the upper plate, find its velocity. Since L equals 10 centimeter and the area of the square equals L square, therefore the area equals 100 times 10 to the power negative 4 meter square. Good. The thickness D 2 millimeter. We have to change it to meter, multiply it by what? Good. Times 10 to the power negative 3. And eta equals 4 kilogram meter negative 1 second to the power negative 1. The force 10 Newton, we need to determine the velocity. We have to apply the relation. Since eta equals Fd over Av, therefore 4 equals 10, the force times 2 times 10 to the power negative 3, the distance, over the area 100 times 10 to the power negative 4 times the velocity, from which we can determine the velocity. It equals 0.5 meter per second. Application of viscosity. We use viscosity in our daily life. Number 1. The metallic machine should be lubricated. Lubricated means putting oil in between. Do you know why? To decrease the heat produced by friction, or to protect the machine parts from wearing. Water is not used to lubricate metallic machines, while oils with high viscosity are used. Do you know the answer? Because water has low viscosity. It will flow away from machine parts as a result of the weak adhesive forces. Also, it evaporates quickly and makes rust. But we use oil as it has high viscosity, so it adheres well with the parts of the machine and cannot flow.